In the olden days, the history was handed down from one generation to the other through the oral tradition. This story is an uneasy tale of resisting enslavement by the Igbo warriors. Some call it the myth of the flying Africans. This is Igbo Landing, which took place at Durban Creek on Simon Island in Georgia in the United States of America. In May 1803, a shipload of captive West Africans, upon surviving the perilous Middle Passage, landed during trans-Saharan slave trade, and the people decided to take their life. The Middle Passage was a stage of the trans-Saharan Atlantic trade when ships depart Europe for African markets with manufactured goods which were traded for with rulers of African towns and other African slave traders. Ships transported these enslaved men and women across the Atlantic. The proceeds from selling these captive were then used to buy products such as fur, tobacco, sugar, rum, and other raw materials, which were transported back to Europe to complete the triangle. The first passage was first march of African captives from their inland homes, where they had been captured by their tribal men and other members of other tribes, to African ports, where they were imprisoned until they were sold and loaded onto a ship. Then the Middle Passage across the Atlantic joined the first passage and the final passage, which was the journey from the port of disembarkment in America to the plantation or other destination where these men were put to work. Normally, the voyage on the Middle Passage were large financial undertakings generally organized by companies or groups of investors rather than individuals. The duration of the transatlantic voyage varied widely from 1 to 6 months depending on the weather conditions. The captives were usually forced marched from their villages to the ports along the west coast of Africa, where they were held for sale to the European or American merchants who transport them, move them across Atlantic to be auctioned or work on the plantation. Just imagine the serenity of African villages where people engage in lots of activities, some dancing, some trading, and some people buying things in the market, enjoying the calmness by the people, the villagers. Think of being in a market trading or buying some stuff on one Eke market day or Nkwo market day. You started seeing strange faces around you, and before you knew it, people started running helter skelter looking for hiding places because of surprise attack on innocent villagers by these hitmen who were searching for who to capture for their financial gains. This eventually disrupted the activities of the villages, and most villagers live in fear. Some are scared of going to trade or farm, and this brought lots of confusion to a lot of people. In May 1803, a ship of captive West African, upon surviving the perilous Middle Passage, landed at Durban Creek on Simon Island, Georgia, United States of America. During this Middle Passage, the captives were packed like sardines in a cramped ship with a little space to move around, and people heaped on top of one another for like 1 to 6 months long journey. Sometimes there were disease outbreak, disease spread, and ill health was one of the major problems. Most of the people involved in Igbo Landing story were the Igbos and other tribes from West African countries. Igbo is one of the largest tribes in Nigeria, and they occupy and live in southern part of Nigeria. Igbo people, natively called Ndi Igbo, ethnic group in southeastern part of Nigeria. They are found in Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, and Imo states. A sizable Igbo population is also found in Delta and Rivers State. Before the creation of the state, that region was formerly known as Bight of Biafra, and they were well known for their entrepreneurship. They are fiercely independent and unwilling to tolerate the humiliations of chattel slavery. In the 19th century, the British established control over the region, which was made easier by the Igbos' way of leadership, which is decentralized political organization. The Igbos were politically fragmented by the centralized chiefdoms of Nri, Aro Confederacy, Abo, and Onitsha. Frederick Lugard introduced the Eze system of warrant chiefs, and also Christian missionaries found Igbo land to be a fertile ground for converting people to Christianity, and Igbos became overwhelmingly Christians during the evangelism of the missionaries. Before the advent of Christianity, Igbos were mostly traditional worshippers, following Omenana or Ordinana, depending on how one calls it. The Igbo traditional religion believes in supreme deity called Chukwu, and they reverence and worship this deity. They believe that Chukwu created the world and everything in it. They also believe in smaller deities like Agbara or Alosi, which operate below the higher deity. Alosi are mediated by Dibias and chief priests who do not have the power to contact the supreme deity directly. Below Alosi are minor and general spirits called Mo. The worship of ancestors and worship of various gods and spirits form the main component of the Igbo traditional religion. The number of people practicing the traditional Igbo religion decreased drastically with the influx of missionaries. In some cases, the traditional religion practices were syncretized with Christianity, but in most cases, the indigenous religious rites were demonized by the Christian missionaries, who found Igbo land a fertile ground for proselytizing. Some Igbos were active slave traders, which also made them to be involved in the slavery. The story had it that during the journey of the Middle Passage, this Igbo group rose up in rebellion against the agents that were in the ship and they jumped overboard, eventually got drowned. The story had it that at least 10 Igbo warriors were drowned, choosing to unalive themselves over being enslaved in America. West African captives arrived in Savannah, Georgia, on the ship named the Wanderer. They were brought by the slave merchants John Cooper and Thomas Paulding at $100 each for one captive. During the voyage, approximately 75 Igbo captives rose in rebellion, took control of the ship, drowned the captors by throwing them overboard. In the process, the ship got grounded in Dunbar Creek. According to the story, the Igbo captives, led by their high chief, marched ashore, singing and walked into marshy waters of Dunbar Creek in chains and got drowned. The site is now a historic site at Dunbar Creek on St.Simons Island in Glenn County of Georgia, United States. An overseer of the nearby Butler Island plantation wrote the first account of the incident. He and another man recovered many of the drowned bodies. Apparently, only a subset of Igbo rebels drowned. 13 bodies were recovered, but others remained missing, and some may have survived the ordeal, making the actual number of the captives who lost their lives uncertain. This depicts the powerful story of resistance as the captives overwhelmed their captors in a strange land, and many took their own lives rather than remained enslaved in the New World. The story of Igbo Landing gradually took a great symbolic importance in the local African American folklore. While many historians have cast doubt on the authenticity of this story, suggesting that the entire incident was more legend than fact, the modern scientific techniques were used to confirm the factual basis of the long-standing oral account. Local people claim that the landing and the surrounding marshes in Dunbar Creek were haunted by the souls of the deceased. The site welcomed tourists from different parts of the world and called for the souls to be permanently at rest. Who designated the site as a holy ground, the area where this happened? There is an inscription there that says that these Igbo people traditionally they were singing in their language, saying that water brought them there and water would take them away, highlighting the use of water as means for enslaved Igbos to escape back to Africa. So guys, let me know what you think about this story. I'm gonna round off here. Stay healthy and safe. If you find this story interesting, remember to subscribe to the channel and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.